I'm 27, male, and to put it bluntly, my parents threw me away like garbage when I was 18. Why? Because my father's new wife wanted her daughter to have my room. I was given a week to pack up and get out. No college support, no safety net, just a "you're an adult now, figure it out" speech. And trust me, I did. Now, almost a decade later, I own a mansion, and guess who's suddenly desperate for a place to stay? Yeah, the same parents who didn't even hesitate to replace me. Let me take you back to how it all started. I had just graduated high school and was looking forward to college. I had a part-time job, a solid plan, and thought my parents would at least support me through the transition. Instead, my father sat me down and said, "We need to make some changes around here." His wife, sitting beside him, wore the smuggest look I'd ever seen. "Your room is going to M," she said, referring to her 16-year-old daughter from a previous marriage. "We need the space for her." I laughed, thinking they were joking. They weren't. "You're an adult now," my father said. "It's time for you to be independent." My mother sat silently, eyes cast down. She didn't agree, but she also didn't fight for me. I was furious. "So, you're just kicking me out? With no warning?" "It's not kicking you out," my stepmother said, rolling her eyes. "It's helping you grow up." They gave me a week to pack my things and leave. No financial help, no emotional support, nothing. I had to couch surf at a friend's place while scrambling to find a way to survive. Meanwhile, I moved into my room, redecorated it, and within a month, it was like I never existed. Fine. They didn't want me? I didn't need them. I won't sugarcoat it. Those first years were brutal. I worked 2 jobs while attending college part-time. I slept in my car some nights, but I kept grinding, kept pushing forward. I started a business in my early 20s, pouring everything I had into it. And after years of sacrifice, it paid off. By 27, I wasn't just doing well, I was thriving. I had built a multi-million-dollar business and just closed on a 7-bedroom mansion with more space than I knew what to do with. Then, out of nowhere, my father called. At first, I thought he might have had a moment of reflection, maybe some overdue apology. But no, "We're going through some hard times," he said, voice full of forced humility. "We lost the house, and we need a place to stay. Just until we get back on our feet." I nearly laughed. The same father who tossed me out without a second thought now wanted my help. I let the silence drag before saying, "I don't think that's going to work for me." He was stunned. "What?" "Son, this is your family." "Funny," I said, "because when I needed family, you replaced me with your wife's kid." And just like that, the entitlement exploded. My father's tone shifted instantly, from fake humility to barely contained anger. "That was years ago. You can't still be holding a grudge over that." "Oh, I absolutely can." My stepmother snatched the phone. "You're being selfish. We're your parents, and you have a mansion. You're seriously going to let us struggle while you live in luxury?" I scoffed. "You didn't care when I was struggling. What happened to being independent and figuring it out? That was different," she shrieked. "You were young and needed to learn responsibility. We're older. We need help." I could hear my father in the background trying to calm her down, but she was on a roll. "You owe us this," she hissed. "We raised you, fed you, gave you a home, and then you took it away when it was no longer convenient." I interrupted. "Now you're expecting me to return the favor? Not happening." She actually had the audacity to start crying. "I can't believe how cruel you're being." "Oh, you haven't seen cruel yet." I hung up. Over the next few weeks, the entitlement escalated. They tried everything to guilt me. First, they sent my mother. She showed up at my office, looking exhausted and worn down. "Your father made a mistake," she said softly. "But family forgives. Did you fight for me back then?" I asked. Her silence was answer enough. Then came the social media campaign. My stepmother posted a long, dramatic rant about how I had abandoned my poor, struggling parents while living in excess. She painted herself as some heartbroken mother figure, sobbing over my cruelty. Comments flooded in, mostly from her side of the family, calling me ungrateful and heartless. They expected me to fold under pressure. I didn't. Instead, I responded with a brutal post of my own. Funny how the same people calling me cruel were silent when I was thrown out at 18, so my stepmother's daughter could have my room. You didn't care when I was homeless, struggling to eat. But now that I'm successful, suddenly family matters? Nah, you all made your choice. Now live with it. That shut them up real fast. But the final straw was what they pulled next. A week later, I got a letter from a lawyer. My parents were trying to sue me. For what? Elder support. They claimed I had a legal obligation to financially support them since they were struggling, and I had the means to do so. They even tried to argue that, as their son, I owed them a comfortable retirement. I was furious. Luckily, the law wasn't on their side. In my state, children are only required to support their parents under very specific circumstances, none of which applied here. I lawyered up and responded with my own legal threat. If they didn't drop the lawsuit immediately, I would countersue for emotional distress, defamation, and harassment. They folded fast, but I wasn't done. Since they were so desperate for money, I made sure they never saw another dime from me. I called up some old connections and tanked my father's credit further by exposing some of his shady financial dealings to his creditors. They had already been struggling, now they were drowning. My stepmother's social media stunt? I had screenshots and sent them to potential employers she had applied to. Her entitled attitude? Let's just say no one was eager to hire her after that. I also contacted Em, my stepmother's precious daughter, the one I was kicked out for. Turns out, she hated her mother. She was more than happy to spill years of dirt, including how my stepmother hid money from my father in a secret bank account. I made sure he found out. The result? My father and stepmother divorced. My father was left penniless. My stepmother? Jobless and struggling. And Em? She actually apologized to me for everything, saying she never agreed with how they treated me. A few months later, my father tried one last time to guilt me. He showed up at my gate, looking defeated. "You got what you wanted," he muttered. "Are you happy now?" I stared at him. This man had thrown me away without hesitation, had only come crawling back when he needed something, and even tried to sue me. I let the silence hang before saying, "Yes. Yes, I am." And then, I shut the gate in his face. If you enjoyed this, hit that subscribe button. I promise you, there's more where this came from.